Military families are carrying the weight of uncertainty as delays and denials by ICE under this administration continue to affect military families, stall stability, and erode trust. When the promise to protect those who serve is delayed, military readiness suffers because a force cannot be mission ready when its families are left in limbo. More than 45,000 foreign-born service members are currently serving in uniform, many in the same state of uncertainty, fighting for our country while unable to fully protect their own families at home. From Danitza James, MSW, President of Repatriate Our Patriots. Hello, Jose Duran here, host and creator of the ESL Sessions. So, as of the recording of this episode, there have been a new development with another military service member and his family being affected. Sergeant First Class Jose Serrano and his wife, Daisy Rivera Ortega, are the newest people to be affected by detentions with ICE, both following the legal system. So, as you continue to hear this episode, please take into account that this is a new and developing situation, and we will be continuing to follow it in the best way possible and to be able to report it in the near future once we have more information on the current outstanding situation, both in the legal process and how it is affecting their lives. Continue to listen and keep following for any new updates and new changes as this story comes to light and all news information comes to us and we go ahead and report. So, welcome back to the ESL Sessions on this another episodes of, I guess, just actual regular episode. I keep forgetting I have too many segments and need to reorganize them. But yeah, this is just another episode of the ESL Sessions. My name is Jose Duran. Today, I am joining both Danitza James and Livy Lazaro. Both of them are chair people. They are both chair personnel in the Repatriate Our Patriots. And I'm also doing a lot of information and advocacy work with Lulac. But just to be able to get a little bit more information from them before we start touching on the immigration subject and the current detentions affecting a lot of our military service members, I'll let them give a brief introduction and then we can go ahead and get started on talking to the situation. So go ahead if you can take it away, Dee.
Hi, thank you for having us, Jose. I'm Danitza James. I go by Dee. I am the president for Repatriate Our Patriots. I am a combat veteran. I served in the Army for 6 years. I did 2 combat tours to Iraq, and I'm currently based out of Virginia. I'm originally from Mexico, born and raised, and I served in the Army as a legal permanent resident. I served this country honorably, and actually the mission of Repatriate Our Patriots is serving those who have served our country honorably and after serving have been drastically disposed of because they have encountered issues after serving our military and have been deported. I know that may sound shocking to so many who are watching tonight, but it happens. I myself didn't even know that this could happen, but it does. And Repatriate Our Patriots helps those who have been deported and also helps in the prevention of preventing exactly that, right? By promoting naturalization. So thank you for having us, Jose.
Yeah, thank you. And then changing it over to Livy to be able to get us a little bit of information of her. She's actually a brand new guest, but I definitely want to have you later on in another episode to be able to touch base on your life and your story as well. So go ahead.
Thank you for having me. I'm Livia Lazaro, retired Army Sergeant First Class. I did 20 years active duty, 2 tours in Iraq. Now I serve as the Southwest Regional Director for Repatriate Our Patriots, and I'm also on the board. I'm the chair for Deported Veterans Committee and Military Sexual Trauma Committee for Lulac, as well as the District 1 Deported Veteran Liaison for Veterans of Foreign Wars, Department of California.
Gotcha. So I guess just a little bit about myself as well. I did 12 years active duty in the Navy. I'm currently in the Navy Reserves, as well as I was born and raised in Mexico, came to the United States and joined the military after getting my green card, and actually completed both the immigration process both before the age of 18, both for myself and my mom with no legal background, and again with the assistance of the military was able to gain my citizenship. So I think between all of us we have a pretty good general idea of what it is to be able to be a service member in the immigration process. as well as how much it affects us both in an operational and mission standpoint that a lot of people don't see. But there's three specific things, three specific situation that have happened recently that I wanted to touch on, and actually one, get your opinion, but also see how things are affecting and what else we can do as within the veterans community, but also just as members of Repatriate Our Patriots and advocacy, and then the advocacy group for Lulac, to be able to keep our service members and their family members informed. And the first one we wanted to talk about is the most recent one with Mr. Matthew Blank, so Private Matthew Blank and Annie Ramos. So that is the current private that his wife or his fiance was detained and then eventually was released after going on base to be able to get her re-enrolled in, and to get her initially enrolled into the military dependence system. So with that, it's a little bit interesting in the way that the current system is actually affecting dependents in ways that we didn't foresee, or I guess weren't exactly expecting. But taking it to you, D, how do you see that, as how it affects and what we can actually do to I guess to be able to help out our service members, or even just like things that to keep in mind when things like that happen?
Yeah, thank you. So this was a very tragic case of tragic and shocking, but not surprising, right? Unfortunately, military families and service members are told that their families can be protected under this military parole in place for families. Um, and this is exactly what happened to Staff Sergeant Matthew Blank, right? When he married his wife, Annie, um, he was told that the military parole in place will protect her, and that he could file for her to remain in the United States. However, it just, under the immigration law, it just doesn't happen that fast. And I am not an expert, I am not an immigration attorney, but what happened with them is they got married and they went to the military ID card office for her to get her military ID card, and they she did not have a any she did not have a legal permanent residence card or any US valid ID card. She presented her passport from her country of residence, right? And so that here in the United States is really just not a legal proof of residence. So what they proceeded to do is they called ICE, and she was then transferred to an ICE detention center, right? Even though she was already in the process of applying for her immigration status. But this is something that we have within Repatriate Our Patriots. We are actually working with for military spouses who are actually here pending removal, and they are married to active duty service members, right? So this is not something that we are that we are unaware of. Unfortunately, a lot of our citizens just don't know that this happens. Some of them think that when you marry a service members, this is automatic, and that's just not the case. That is a myth, right? Some people think that you marry US citizens and you are automatically a US citizen. Some people think that you marry service members and that you automatically become a US citizens, US citizen. But within the military, military parole in place, it is something that is something that you can apply for. It just doesn't happen that fast. But there was recently a New York Times article, right, that was published, that it says uh, some join the military under the false pretense that recruiters tell them that, hey, if you join the military, you could protect your parents, your siblings, right? They will give them that protection, right? That they will not be deported, that you can give them the legal permanent residence, right? And they use that as a tool, as bait, right? To get them to enlist in the military. And it's simply not a guarantee. And I know that Libby can, share more about that.
Yes, that case was, like she said, shocking but not surprising because we've seen it happen so many times. And on even on social media, I see ads by the army or other military organizations that are like, um, protect your parents, parole in place, actual ads. Um, letting you know, or actually misleading you into believing that as soon as you sign this contract, that your family or yourself are going to have these protections. And as we keep seeing, I mean, not even us as veterans have these protections. It's not anything like immigration, as you both know, is not anything you put in the contract. There's no verbiage for it in the contract. So our family service members are even worse off. I did a couple of briefings at National Guard units in the area. And there was I mean, there's just no education in the unit as to how to protect your family members or yourself. We ran into a service member who paid for all of his fees and his lawyer to get his citizenship while being active duty. Then also did somebody else did it for their spouse and paid everything. And these are all things that that they are promised that they will get through the military and through their service, and they have no guarantee of that. And I say misleading because we see these recruiters at the Lulac conventions. We see them at the minority led conventions, and you're still not putting these policies in place to be able to protect the family. And another thing on that case was, I'm not even sure it was protocol at this post. It, from some of the articles that I read, it seemed like it was a worker that took it upon themselves to just call ICE. And that's just another level of threat that our foreign born service members and their families are facing. You should be able to at least run to a base and be safe, you would think, with your family, correct? Yes.
No,
That's what I have on that. Yeah.
and that's very true. So actually speaking on that article, so as I read it both on both the CBS, CNN, and I think it was even the Associated Press, was that it was actually the ID card agent that when they were reviewing her documentations and saw, I think there was she was a DACA recipient and didn't have any other legal documentation besides that. And I think her state ID was when she actually called the manager, or he them, whoever it was, called their manager, and their manager was the one that actually took it upon them to contact DHS and ICE to be able to detain her and stuff. So those are things that are affecting the service members in ways that we wouldn't expect. So like now, that not being general protocol is very specific. The only thing that I can understand, I mean, if you guys can correct me, and I'm pretty sure it's very, very pretty much across the board on any DoD facilities, that if somebody is entered both into any military installation as an escort, but is technically not authorized, is that they should be escorted out and should not be allowed further access to any of the information in there. And I think that would have been a general rule of thumb, or just general protocol for both operational security and then just PPI and things like that, personal proprietary information, when dealing with DEER's registration and in other ways. And I'm not saying that it would be something criminal, but just process and procedure to maintain that status quo and the security. But with that as well, so how much experience do you both have with the military parole in place? I know, D, like you said, you're helping out for service members with their family and I think would say their spouses that are currently in the process.
Yeah. So, for example, when U.S. citizens, right, when they marry someone who it's undocumented, right, their spouses do become eligible for legal permanent residence, right, through marriage. but they can apply for citizenship after 3 years from receiving their green card. So they have to become legal permanent residents first. And I know that before Ms. Ramos, before they were married, and I know I read this in one of the articles, right? Before they were married, he hired a lawyer, right, to begin the process. So he knew that she didn't have status, but they were doing everything the right way. And this is like they had hired a lawyer and they were doing the process the right way, right? Or so they thought they were. Something that went on, and I don't want to get too much into the immigration status. Again, I am not an immigration attorney, right? But she had been there's this whole thing about being deported in absentia, and that what that means is that they deported her, but she was never like notified, right? But prior to the Trump administration, right, they created like this mass deportation, right? When somebody like her would have not been detained, right? And this is something that who we work with very closely, Margaret Stock. She is a retired Army colonel who has been working in the immigration, military immigration world and realm for a very long time, and she's very knowledgeable in this, right? She did say that somebody like her would have not been deported in the previous administration, right? Or she would have not been deported. And um, she did mention, and she commented on on the situation and on her case, that she said that the military would have allowed her to get her military ID card, and told Staff Sergeant Blank and her to file for their immigration papers, right? Um, Later on, like the ID card office honestly like had no business on calling ICE, calling anybody else. Like this is not within their duties. Like I worked at the ID card section, and to me, if you show me the papers, your ID card is like that are simply not something that I need to give you an ID card, I'm gonna be like, hey ma'am, sorry, this is not the documents that I need. Like come back with something else another day, right? And that's where my job ends, right? Like they let you on base, like, and you have nothing. Like I like that's where my job ends, right? Obviously, you got here somehow. Like I have no business on calling ICE, right? so, so I don't know how this got so bad, but at the end of the day, Senator Kelly made a phone call, and this is how small the world is, right? Staff Sergeant Blank was downrange at a fob where Senator Kelly visited, and they sat at the same table, ate a meal, and there was actually a picture of both of them sitting within arm's reach of each other, right? This is how small the world is.
Look at that.
Yeah, like I got the chills. Like I got
Yeah, yeah.
right? And Senator Kelly heard about this story, made a phone call, and Annie was released like within hours, right?
Mhm.
And that's just how does injustice. It was just insane, right? But things like this should not be happening, right? Unfortunately, there are many other military spouses who find themselves in the same situation. We have military spouses right now that are part of our family support group who are facing and who have removal orders, right? One who has a case that she has to go see eyes in June. Another one has to see eyes. The order is in September. The other one it's in November, right? And they are living day by day, hoping that something happens, that they find an attorney that is willing to take their case pro bono, because they simply cannot afford an immigration attorney to take their case, to file the paperwork, right? That could hopefully file their appeals that they need to, because their husbands are U.S. citizens, serve this country honorably, they're military retirees, and now they find themselves in limbo, right? Because the military parole in place, they just not worked for them for one reason or another. They do not have a a criminal case or a criminal background, and they were like Annie, deported in absentia, or one reason or another. There is a hiccup in the middle, right? That this administration has now put in place something that their immigration case is being impacted by it. And the immigration judges have no um, discretion to utilize their spouse's military service to deem them um, eligible to remain in the United States. And that is just affecting our military families, and
Mhm.
it's overall affecting our military service members.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, do you have something else to add to it, Livy?
Well, I wanted to add, currently we have about 45,000 foreign-born service members serving active duty and reserves. That's a lot of family. That's a lot of family out there with, possible no protections, or no protections as they understood once their person served. So, as we definitely, I mean, you see how we're doing on the veteran side, but we have to do a much better on our family members. Um, Down here, I mean, I won't specify, but there's also a Gold Star mother who is pending an immigration case right now. And there have been some legal issues there, but we can all put together what it might mean to have someone lose someone, right? I won't get into her case, but you would just think, there should be something that can be done for family members, all family members, but when you have gold star status as well, let's look into these cases. You know what I'm saying? If we're not going to protect them from the very beginning, so they don't have to face this, not the children and not the family members or the parents, whoever it is, that you decided to serve for, because, like you said in that article, they decided to serve to protect their family because that's what they're being told. That's what they're being sold. That if you serve, this uniform is going to protect you and your family from the atrocities of the immigration issues that is going on. And that's simply not true. It has never been true. Um, we just didn't know about it for a long time, but it's definitely not true now. We very, very much know about it. And the only way we have seen any I guess change is the pressure. So then it could have been done from the very beginning, is what you're showing me, that once we as public and veterans and veteran families find out, and we put you on the news or on blast, as we call it, and show everybody what you're doing wrong, then you can correct it. So then it's correctable from the very beginning. And none of these service members or family should have to go through any of these things. We've heard how the conditions are at these detention centers. Is that how we're treating our patriots and their families? No one deserves that. So I'm not saying that, but we're in the space of veterans and their families. So I will always focus on that. I mean, even a cot and some MREs is a little bit better than some of the things that we've been hearing, aside from even sexual assault that has been occurring there and mistreatment in some of these detention centers. So no, we must get the legislation in place and enforced to protect our, family members.
And I will say, I do want to explain, for those of you who are watching, when Livy refers to somebody who is a gold star spouse or a gold star mom, that means that they lost someone in combat, right? Or not necessarily in combat. Actually, yes, it is in
Yes.
combat. So this mom who we have, who is at risk of being deported or removed, um, she is a Gold Star mom. She lost her daughter in combat in Afghanistan, to be more specific, right? Her daughter, Captain Jennifer Moreno, died in combat, and her mom is at risk of being deported.
She's
And
currently wearing a GPS anklet, no work permit. She hasn't been able to work in probably over 8 months. Um, as we know, her DIC payments are minimal, and there's been some issues in we've gotten some of the senators involved in. But this Gold Star mother, a VA hospital, is named after her daughter. In La Jolla, Captain Jennifer Moreno, killed in action in Afghanistan, part of an all-female team attached to the Rangers. I mean, she has legacy, history, and and she grew up here where I'm at. But it's like talking to her mom. I talk to her mom almost every day, every 2 days. And she gets frustrated. She actually has suicidal ideation. She wants to just support herself, but then in her heart, she knows her daughter would never have wanted that, because that was part of her and her son serving and her becoming a nurse to be able to take care of her. But she can't work, and she's this fiercely independent woman. And the fact that she can't work and she can only volunteer, she has to depend on the veteran service organizations like Don Diego, VFW 7420, some other VFWs in El Monte and stuff, as fundraisers, things like that, just to live. And, as well, like, yes, people say, would make a GoFundMe or this and that, but we're also scared of someone targeting her or being, oh, okay, well, because of these things, you didn't deserve it, this and that. I mean, she gets some of those comments now, and it breaks her heart. And, we keep her hope alive. And, and we've just put a plaque up for her daughter at Plaques for Warriors up in Mount Soledad, and thousands of people up there, right? Like hundreds of people up there, and it's still she has to. We went shopping so she could get a dress that covered her GPS for immigration. It's like we don't even know how many people out there know. You would never think that this is happening to her, So it's like if we're truly honoring her for being a Gold Star mother and giving the sacrifice of her daughter for this country, then we need to honor that immigration. Like whatever could have gone on can be taken care of.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, and especially like even if there have been legal issues with some of the service members or family members, it's usually a one-time thing or a long time ago, over 10 years ago, 15 years ago. Have they been rehabilitated? Have they not offended anymore? And even if it was a DUI, like we've heard of some of these family members, you should be able to recover from a DUI. A DUI for citizens is a misdemeanor, but for immigrants is an aggravated felony, and that's a deportable offense. The same crime that should be against recoverable. You know what I mean? Like we speak about that all the time. You should be able to recover from your mistakes. It shouldn't, like, for a service member, shouldn't cost them their whole country, nor for their family. We should be able to rehabilitate from that. But I mean, it breaks my heart to even mention her situation and how we are tied in our hands. But we are reaching out, to different people to try to get her a pardon or something else that can at least give her some stability, because it is wearing on her. She is losing weight, she is depressed. I worry about her all the time. All of us do here, but it's definitely difficult on them. And being able to see it, as Danitza sees, by talking to a young lady who came here to get surgery for her son's heart. um they're trying to get these things scheduled and done in a timely manner before their like sand clock runs out, or they no longer get approved again. And oh my god, like, do you guys remember leaving combat or leaving training, and it was like, you're on that next bus? No, you're not. You're on that next plane? No, you're not. And and that we went through that maybe a month or a couple weeks, and it really messed with our mental health. It messed with our emotions, our irritability, and my accent's coming out. Um, but do you know what I mean? It's like seeing them go through that. That is no way for us to be treating our family members.
No, and those are very good specific points, both from both of you, and what do you call it, with the, like, regarding the whole legal process, the entire situation happening and how they were both detained, and everything that has to have basically been forced to be done for them to be able to even get any shred of attention about what's going on. And what I can tell you, both from my experience, both actually trying to reach out to lawyers, especially the immigration's lawyers, about trying to get the whole process, and what I've been able to read up on, and from my experience going through that portion of the military and parole place, both for myself and then getting some information from my cousin who also did the same for his dad, it was that the military and parole place actually should offer some legal protections within the immigration process. Now, that means specifically that they are authorized to be able to remain in the country for at least a general from 1 year to 2 year pass, depending on how it's authorized by USCIS and the immigration agent. They can also apply for a work permit to be able to continue sustaining themselves, but also at the same fact is whoever the sponsor is. So in my situation, when I was sponsoring my dad, I would have been legally, sorry, not just legally, financially responsible for him to be able to continue the process. And I think that's where I think a lot of the people, that civilians that don't understand the immigration process when speaking about military parole in place, is that the burden still sits on us as the service members. We still have to provide that financial standpoint, that legal standpoint, and be that entire pillar for their entire support throughout the entire process. There's no way to be able to shift that responsibility and say, hey, I've submitted this application with the hopes and appreciation that the US government will approve my application for a green card for my parent, for my sibling, for my mother, my father, for my spouse in their situation. And I'll just leave it at that. It's like, it's no. And there's always that general confusion with it. So with that as well is what makes it really disheartening, how you both mentioned that they were both in the legal process and the immigration judges are not, there's no consideration from the immigration judges just due to the executive orders, whatever administrative memos or immigration documentation has been going on within each of the systems, both being disseminated to ICE agents from DHS, from USCIS, or even from the White House, which makes it that much worse. And both of them being released, not necessarily to their own reconnaissance, but to their family members, both with what do you call it, with ankle monitors, with bracelets. That, like, yes, you're free from the system, but at that point you're still being criminalized for going through the process the right way, as we've been told. And another point that you also brought it up was the criminalization of the DUI, and it actually leads into the next case that I want to talk about, which is Humberto Martinez and Ana Martinez, U.S. sailor who her dad was deported back in January 31st after a DHS ICE stop, and his situation came about when he was detained, and his deportation proceedings essentially happened due to a DUI back in 2004 that led into the request for the order of deportation. But like we said, like we've explained in the past, is like, and what we want to try to advocate is like, how is it possible that a misdemeanor for a U.S. citizen is a criminal felony for somebody who's undocumented, or not even necessarily undocumented, someone with a less legal status other than a U.S. citizen, which makes it really difficult. So with that one, I mean, how much do you know about the case so far, Libby, with Ana Martinez, the sailor, she was currently deployed when this happened with her dad, with her father?
About that case, Danitza knows more of the specifics of that case, but I will tell you, the way that it started happening, where you couldn't take the veterans service, was when around 1997, we had the Oklahoma City bombings, and Timothy McVeigh was the one that, ooh, that did that that horrible thing, but they passed a law during that time, because they thought it was an international terrorism having to be homegrown. So that's where where the law went up to, that certain things were now an aggravated felony for immigrants and misdemeanors for service members. It happened back then in 1997, and that's how they stopped actually giving consideration to your service, which that's insane. Right now we hear it, it's like, how is there no consideration for our service? We take an oath to protect this country with our life. How is there no consideration? But that's how that initially started happening, that our deported veterans got into that, and the family members. But yeah, Denise, if you want to could speak a little bit more on the details of that case.
Yeah. And I don't want to so much focus, I want to focus on um, the details of the immigration case of his dad, right? Because when it comes to a sailor being forward deployed, right, and her dad being deported at the same time, right, and her having to worry about her dad being deported when you are in Iran, in a conflict that is as um, sensitive and fragile as the war in Iran currently is, that shouldn't even be in the same sentence, right? I feel that, s- speaking from experience, I myself served in Iraq as a legal permanent resident. Um, right, not even a citizen. I was sitting in my gun truck thinking about, am I going to make it back alive? Right? That shouldn't even have been in my thoughts. I shouldn't even be thinking about my green card. Am I going to make it back alive? What if I get kidnapped? Will they even negotiate for me because I'm not a US citizen? Like, what am I doing thinking about that? Right? The fact that she is at sea, not maybe, she is at sea, and maybe she probably got a Red Cross message, right, from her parents, notifying her that her dad had been deported. Um, Now she is worried about her dad being deported back to Mexico, right? Her mind now is not in the fight. Her mind is back at home, worried about her siblings, her mom. Um, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure he was probably the breadwinner, right? What's going to happen, right?
Mhm.
She probably joined the military with the same thought of military parole in place, that protection, that thought of, okay, I can probably help out my dad, right? Help him get his legal status. I can help my family. I know I joined with that thought. That is exactly
Mhm.
what my military recruiter sold to me, right? If you join the military, you can do this. And
Mhm.
now that's not even there, right? And now I'm fighting a war that nobody even asked for, right? And I don't even know why I'm out here. Right? All I know is that I am fulfilling my duty because I signed on the line and I am following the orders that I said I will follow.
Mhm.
Right? And guess what? I am doing my job. And this is what I signed up to do. And I will fulfill my duty. But at the end of the day, is that I also, somebody promised me that they will take care of my family. And this is not what they're doing, right? So uh, I don't want, like I said, I don't want to focus on the details of the case and the immigration, but we do know that um, his dad was in the proceedings of filing for his immigration case. He did have an attorney, but he did have a DUI, like Livy said, right? That is an aggravated offense in the immigration legal system. But for somebody like a U.S. citizen, that is not an aggravated offense, right? An aggravated offense under immigration law, it is a deportable offense.
Mhm.
Um, and under this administration right now, they are taking no shortcuts. They are trying to meet a quota, and they do not see any military, they do not make any differences, right? If you have a criminal offense that is a deportable offense, you are on the list. And that's just exactly what happened to Mr. Martinez. And unfortunately, Mr. Martinez is the dad of a sailor who was forward deployed. And it is unjust. This is not what was promised to us. And the days after the deportation of the dad, it was one the same the days after, it was the same days that one of the Iranian drones was shut down. I know I read part of the story, right? It was shut down after the fly-in. um, like it was like near that area, and so like I think it hit one of like the Lincoln, um
Okay.
right, though the I think it was debunked that it didn't really hit any of it, right? But it was like really, that's how close it is, right, that it could have harmed her and stuff. So I just think uh I know the dad is really worried for her, right? That will that be the last time he sees her? And like that's unfortunately what we're asking military families, right? Who like in military families, it involves immigrant families, right? It's not just American citizens families. It's immigrant families who send their kids right into the
Mhm.
military uh, to defend this country, right? And we do it just as good as US citizens. And I know when I was over there, nobody asked me about my citizenship.
So, and like wherever you see, like I said, you said these raids, things like that, and immigration, like she just said this story, you don't think that immigration is going to affect national security. But that's affecting national security because, like you said, you have forward deployed service members defending us right now that are worried about their family members being deported, being harassed, all of that. Like immigration, the way that the government is seeing immigration, you're weakening national security because then they will be out there, not focused, worried about that. Like you just said, Danitza, was worried about how she was going to make it the next day. And I mean, I will be blunt. Like I, and that war, at least we believed what we were being told and why we were there. In this one, there's a big difference, and even in that, with like our Afghan allies that we promised, the translators that we promised citizenship to, they removed all those protections, the SIVs, to again like another community of people that we pretty much just used when we needed them in Afghanistan, and now like they're in the middle of establishing themselves here, or they have applications for their family to come here, and all of that was just removed, so they're now all deportable. And and sometimes they're like, oh, why are they here illegally, why are they here undocumented? Well, one, it's undocumented or in the process with no resolution. That doesn't make you illegal anywhere. And two, some of these undocumented situations happened because they took away the protections. So there was nothing they did wrong. There was nothing. I mean, and the way that they can find them is because they were doing everything right, because they were checking in, they were updating their information, things like that. And even down here, I did court observing a couple times because I'm right here in San Diego by one of the immigration offices. And this is the time where we actually would go, maybe 10, 15 of us. There was a family member that had court to go and show our military support. And we were told that some of the ICE agents would act a little bit better. They wouldn't slam them on the floor. They wouldn't, like, they come out of the door and there's barely like a 4 pace separation between the wall. And, that's why they were do this. So we would go and support our military members or their family by just being there, wearing our gear, things like that, to see if the outcome could be just a little bit better. But I mean, it's definitely happening all across. And, with our Afghan allies, our family members, their families, they're now in limbo. And, just as much as our some of our family members returning or deported veterans returning to their country of origin is dangerous, even more so for the Afghan translators and their families. So, I mean, it is definitely affecting national security and the future of our military.
Yeah, very much true on all of that, especially the biggest concern being the way that it's actually affecting the mission and just anybody forward deployed, but also how it actually affects the entire dynamic back at home, and then just the level of insecurity, the emotional insecurity that comes from something so drastic in that effect. Because like you said, everybody that's currently affected with it has served in the military or have assisted the military in one way or another, and due to them being in that the legal process, as they were told, due through the legal process, are now being targeted. So the and I don't want to say it as an opinionated kind of situation, but it seems that the target is very deliberate to what's currently available and what's easily accessible, and what's visible, not necessarily provable, but visible, is that whoever is currently in any type of immigration proceedings in any type of way are just going to be wrangled up and taken into deportation because they're just there, they're present, they're easy targets. Now with everybody else being kind of secondary to nature, and whatever administrative warrants or judicial warrants they're supposedly issuing out or are not issuing out, that's a whole other conversation. But are other supposed streamlines and other legal ways, as they've been, as the administration and DHS has put it, as legal ways to be able to continue to detain illegal immigrants, which we keep mentioning. There's no, that's not the exact definition. Undocumented immigrants and peoples without status is the correct definition, and it makes it really difficult to kind of not see some sort of discrimination, or at least some sort of specific targeting, and which actually leads to the last part. And it was more of a short-lived report than anything, but it was kind of one of those concerning situations where it's like, all right, the level of escalation from the administration and DHS to how it's still affecting military service members is at the level of graduation, where both Military Times, CNN, ABC were reporting that the White House, excuse me, that the White House or the DHS were going to be sending ICE agents to be able to help assist the guards or the entry points over at Paris Island for the Marine Corps graduations. And the initial thoughts and the initial questionings were, why so? And is this deliberate targeting of people? Because we both know, all three of us know, somebody who serves in the military. We know somebody very specific that serves not only in the military, but in the Marine Corps. And out of everybody that we know who serves in the Marine Corps, the majority of them are either of Hispanic, Latino descent of any sort, or from other regions of the world. And I can name 5 or 6 people that from the Marines that I know that are Mexican, that are Latino, that are Salvadoran, Guatemalan. And these are the people that, these are our now graduated service members that are being escorted out, their families being escorted out as they're going into service for the country. And then now they have to find not only to be able to, 2 fronts to defend. One, to be able to defend the American people, but also find the second front on trying to defend and justify the legitimacy of their presence here because of their family members' undocumented status. So with that, this being the final subject, I mean, this being the final article with that, D, what can you tell me with that? Is that how would this be something that not only affects our service members, but ways to be able to like communicate them with the whole recruiting push for supposed protection when we're clearly seeing a deliberate targeting?
Whew, I have to take a deep breath on this one. And the reason why I say that is because so roughly around 20 to 22% of Hispanics serve in the Marine Corps, right? And all 3 of us know that military installations have their policies on their requirements to access a military facility. Point blank, period, regardless of legal status in the United States, right? Whether you are a US citizen, a foreign national, a contractor, a civilian, whoever you are, there are requirements to access the military, a military installation, period, dot, right? So regardless of eyes being there or not, you need X, Y, and Z to access a military installation, period. So ICE, it is a federal agency, right? So the minute this article came out, that the headline was ICE to check IDs at Paris Island's family days, right? It was like, okay. My first thought was, where is the Sergeant Major of the Marine Corps? The first thing I said, all right, Sergeant Major of the Marine Corps is from Sonora, Mexico. That is where I am from. I am from San Luis Rio Colorado, Sonora. He is from Hermosillo. Yes. I wanted the Sergeant Major of the Marine Corps to come out and say, this is why and where ICE, DHS will be at. And this is, they will be doing whatever, right? They will be doing for this reason, whatever, right? Despite of what they were doing, this is the base requirements to access the military base. Outside of whatever ICE or DHS is doing, these are their requirements to access Paris Island, period, right? Because all of us know that requirements to access Paris Island on any day are this. And that's all he needed to say, right? This is, he could have kept that so simple, right? And debunk all of the drama that was going on about ICE. It was so simple for this to be debunked, yet he did not. I was so disappointed that the Sergeant Major of the Marine Corps did not do that. Extremely disappointed that he did not do that. But then I thought about it. And then I said, you know why he didn't do that? Because then that would have been another headline, like General, the Chief of Staff of the Army last week. He would have been relieved if he would have done that. Right? And that's why he didn't do that. I hate to say it, but that's why he didn't do that. Right? And then I took another breath and I was like, okay, well, like I was saying at the beginning, there's 22% of Hispanics serve in the Marine Corps. And this is, unfortunately, but fortunately, Hispanics serve in the Marines. A large portion of Hispanics serve in the Marines. And they will continue to serve in the Marines because that's who we are. And DHS and ICE knows where to hit us, right? And it was sad to see that they were targeting graduation days.
And that's the right word, targeting.
It was sad to see that they were targeting graduation days. It was sad to see this happening. Sad, shocking, but not surprisingly again. And like, for those of you watching, this is a trend that we've been saying all night.
Mm-hmm.
Shocking, but not surprising, right? And this is a theme that we've been seeing and keep saying over and over this entire year with this administration on everything that we've been seeing this entire time, right? Shocking, but not surprising. And I say that to say this. we have to, unfortunately, we have to be prepared. We have to educate ourselves. We have to be ready. We have to stay informed, and we have to rely on each other. And we have to support each other, form a community, right? And really extend each other those arms around each other to protect each other from what is going on, right? How they're trying to take us down and harm us and get rid of us, right? Because of our strengths, right? That's really what it is, right? They are afraid of what we bring to the table, right? They're afraid of the strength that we are, right? The immigrant strength, right?
Mhm.
And honestly, there is no bigger pride of seeing us graduate from such a hard course. And I hate to say it, but the Marine, graduating from Marine training, right? Even though I'm not a Marine, but it is, I will give them the flowers where flowers are deserved, right? It is a hard course, right? And seeing them graduate, right? That is a hat. My nephew was a Marine, is a Marine, right? Is a very proud day, right? And for the parents to go and see their Marines graduate, right? It's a day like no other. And to deprive them from that, is hurting their heart, right? And so for those who were not able to go and see them graduate, it hurt them, right? But I'm sure they found a way. Somebody was probably there recording them. They were probably seeing them, so they figured out. All of us, we always find a way.
I was gonna say we always figured it out. Yeah.
Somebody
Yeah.
somebody had a phone, the whole neighborhood
Mhm.
somewhere over there had a whole
Mm.
TV, right, and figured it out. Trust me, we are Hispanics, we find a way. But the best way, right, that we found a way, and I know I saw this on Instagram for all the organization, education, right? I saw multiple groups sharing information about like, hey, do this, don't go here, don't do that, check with the immigration attorney, find a way. This is what you do, this is what you need. And as I was doing my research, I found out that Paris Island's website was extremely hard to find the other documents that you could use if you didn't have a real ID.
Mm.
If you didn't have a real ID, you could use other documents like so for example, your Mexican passport. You could use your Mexican passport as your identification to
Mhm.
go on base, right? So you did not need a real ID, even though that's what was on the website. Oh, if you don't have a real ID, you cannot come on base. Well, if I don't have a real ID, but I have a Mexican passport, I can come on base. Somebody can
Yeah.
come me on base. But they did not say that, right? So unless you went from click to click to click to click, like 10 different clicks, right? You will not find that information. So it took me like click, 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 and then to a form that it was several more clicks to find out how I could get on base. So even Paris Island's website made it extremely difficult for me to find a way on how to get on base.
Mm.
And so as I did the research, right, to find information on how to share the link with people, right, to give them the tools. Hey, if you want to go, this is how you can get there, right? For me to do that, right? It made it extremely difficult. I know that for a parent to try to figure out how to do it the right way, which is what we've been talking about all night, right? That those sailors tried to do the right way.
Mhm.
Staff Sergeant Blank tried to do it the right way. Sailor for the Martinez tried to do it the right way. For someone who was trying to go to their son's or daughter's graduation, will try to do the right way. Would have been extremely difficult, right? it was horrible, right? So there's a theme also, right? Um, yeah, this was really, really bad, but I was extremely disappointed on how the Sergeant Major of the Marine Corps did not just came out flat out, put a memorandum and say, hey, these are the guidelines to enter a military base. Bottom line, right? Follow the guidelines. That's it. Bottom line. Show up, right? That's all he had to say
Mm-hmm.
to get rid of the myth, right? Debunk the ICE, ID, DHS, right? And then come enjoy the celebrations or whatever and get rid of all the ice and stuff. But the fact that he didn't do that, I was extremely disappointed. But then I thought about it and was like, if he would have done that, he would have been the next person to be released from his duties. And unfortunately, he's still in his position.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very much so. And then, I mean, do you have anything else to add, Livy?
No, that's I mean, she nailed it. I was, they're trying to get us at our heart, because I remember going to basic training. I couldn't, my parents didn't come see me. They couldn't afford to. You know what I mean? So I know there's great pride in being there for the graduation, but hey, that heart that they're trying to get us, it's strong. It's a very strong heart. So they might, attack it, or hit us where our family hurts or whatever, but we're gonna overcome it.
I was
You know
gonna
what I
say,
mean?
yeah, my family didn't come to my graduation either. I
Yeah.
graduated at South Carolina. Nobody came. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, like, even for me, there was no expectation that they would ever be able to come, like, as far as financially. So, and I was able to go to my stepson's graduation, and that in there, I was like, woo! I was like, oh yeah, like I'm up in life now. I'm one of those parents that's at the graduation, and there was so much pride and all kinds of
Oh, yeah.
all kinds of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I can definitely relate to that as well. Same thing. My parents weren't able to financial, legal status situation and all of that. And so even when my wife, when she graduated boot camp, like I was so proud that my in-laws, my mother-in-law, my father-in-law, and my sister-in-law were able to go see her when she graduated from Air Force boot camp. And
Yeah.
it was a great moment. And well, I guess just kind of to touch on those final points of with these whole situation, how you actually said it, is very specific to that. How you said about the Marine Corps, the sergeant of the Marine Corps is something that I want to actually be very specific about with the way that the politics are kind of aligning, not only just in those higher levels of leadership, but even within like our general standard ranks. So just bringing it forward, like, I mean, yes, I left active duty service, but I chose to return back to the reserve. So me doing my duty, even having this conversation, paints a little bit of a target on my back. But one thing I will not do is, one, deny the fact that not only our community, not only our community as Latino Hispanos are being affected, but every single ethnic group, every single culture, every single people that are here in the United States serving for the country for whatever reason that we immigrated to here in one way or another are people that are supposed to be being taken care of. That's what the main reason for the oath was and why we signed up. And it is a little bit disheartening how you said it, that he didn't speak up about what was happening. And even it kind of irks me a little bit, but like I said, I understand leadership levels and politics in those higher spaces is a little bit more difficult to manage when you're working against an entire administration. Now, that's not to say the same thing for, like I said, our lower file and ranks, our people, our lower enlisted, or even some of the officers that are still within any single part of the forces. Is that it's a little bit difficult seeing a lot of like the Mexican or even the Latino pages, the people that are in support of the military, that have come from all these backgrounds from all over the country, not advocating for the immigration reform. And like I said, I follow a couple pages. I'm not going to name names just to be able to not put them on blast. But like you said, it's one of those things where you would think within the community of the military, you think we would support ourselves in the same way, but it's not always the case. And we see that with a lot of the pictures and videos of who's actually behind the ICE, the ERO, the DHS uniforms, and it's sometimes our own people. So it doesn't surprise me, but it also doesn't dishearten me as well, because we know who to follow, we know who to support after everything happens, after it all changes, and once reforms comes, like, we'll know who stood behind and and held us up, carried that weight with us when it comes to that. So before I even say anything else to close it off, one, like I said, thank you for being available and still being a part of representation of the community, but also that extra backbone for the immigration and reform of our military service members, our brothers and sisters, still in uniform and out of uniform. And on top of that as well, if there's anything else that we can give out, any information to be able to help them out, and then just share or disseminate, like we always have, we have these three platforms available, both via ROP, via Lulac, via the ESL sessions, but whoever we're able to reach and in any way possible to get that information disseminated.
Yeah, no, thank you. And like you said, right, there are different levels of service, right? I know I took off the uniform, but I never stopped serving. And uh, when you um, get to different levels in like administration, so leadership or whatever, you continue to serve differently, right? And the sergeant major of the Marine Corps, he continues to serve in different ways, and he may have chosen to not speak up or say anything right in this way, but he may have done something different, right? And from my point of view, I may have seen it as he didn't say anything. He may have not appeased it like publicly. And from my perspective, I may say like, oh, he could have just published something and said, hey, this and that, right? And that is from my narrow, maybe point of view, right? From where my angle, where I see it, right? That he could have just published something and ended it, right? However, comma, and I'm always going to have this, however, comma. And this is where me and my Joe boots sees it. If he is doing something and he has done much, or he is doing something within his ranks and from his position, continue to do it, because from where I'm at, and from where ROP operates, and the little influence here and there, and the little sprinkles that Livy and I be doing, right? And the little fairies that we go. We do know that we sprinkle the little things here and there, right? Sometimes
Mhm.
we do get to see how that works, right? So if he is doing that, keep doing it, right?
Mhm.
Because um, Marine lives and service members' lives are at stake, especially right now, right? So if you are influencing, if for those military service members who continue to serve in uniform, continue to do the work from the inside, because we need you, right?
Mhm.
Family members, military families, service members right now, their lives are in your hands. And those of us who are out of uniform, we will continue to take care of the home front and make sure that those who are out of uniform continue to stay ready to take care of those ranks who have left the front lines, but continue to take care of, continue to have your six. Because trust me, we have taken off the uniform, but we are still wearing the boots. And we are boots on the ground. And trust me, we have not forgotten. We have may gained a few pounds, but we still got it.
Quite a few.
Yeah, and you can find Repatriate Our Patriots on social media, in our website, repatriateourpatriots.org. And you can donate to us. All of our members, we are all volunteers. We all do this because it is what we love to do. We are all, the majority of us are veterans. Your donations go directly into our services, into our veterans. You can donate via PayPal. Our links are on our socials. Jose is one of our dedicated volunteers, and he is there all the time whenever we need him. So thank you so much. Livy, I give it to you.
I wanted to thank you for the time and the space to discuss these things and, amplify our voice for our service members and their families. I mean, like I said, 45,000 foreign born service members are serving right now. We're not going anywhere. We're not going anywhere. We are part of the thread that built this country. I mean, we have 61 Hispanic American Medal of Honor recipients just that ethnicity, so we're here, we're part of what makes this military great and America great. So let's take better care of our veterans and their families as far as immigration goes.
Yeah. No. Well,
Mhm.
I think we've hit a pretty good stopping point and definitely hit all the wickets on this conversation. And like I said, you guys are always invited back to another episode. We can definitely discuss something. And before I close it off, as always, thank you for being guests here on the ESL Sessions on this another episode of just talking. But as well, like I said, for your service to the country, both for before I joined, even when I wasn't joining, and then still continuing to help out the community, all of the communities in any way that you can, and with what you do. But yeah, and then for future guests, Livia, like I said, the invitation still stands, so I'll definitely reach out
Thank you.
afterwards, and we can definitely get that set up. But yeah, I think this is a pretty good time to close it off. So thank you very much, Danitza, and thank you very much, Livy, for coming on to this episode of the ESL Sessions, and then we'll go ahead and close it off. Have a good evening.
Awesome.